Well, first off, it's great to be home. It's great to be in Collier County, Lee County, Southwest Florida. I can tell you, I've had the opportunity to travel around the state, and this is a great place to live. And one of the nicest things about Southwest Florida is people work together. And we saw it with the horrible Hurricane Ian that hit us last year. And so what we hope is it doesn't happen again. I want to thank everybody for being here today. We're going to go through and have the opportunity, everybody will have the opportunity to talk. But I just want to brag about everybody. The hurricane was horrible. That hit Southwest Florida. Unfortunately, there are people that lost their lives, but I can tell you, everybody standing up here worked their butts off to keep everybody alive, everything they could to keep people alive, and then once it hit, to make sure they did everything to get people back to a normal life. So I just want to thank the mayors that are up here. I want to thank the sheriff for what they did. I want to thank everybody for what they did. Hurricane season is starting again, unfortunately. June 1, it starts again. So we have to get ready. If you can go to any mayor's website, they'll have information about what you should do to get ready. If you go to the sheriff's website, they'll have information about what you should do to get ready. There's a federal one called ready.gov, www.ready.gov. You can go there, but it'll give you a checklist. All right, the beginning of making sure you survive a hurricane is you. It's what you do personally. And by the way, don't just look. The biggest mistake people are making, they look at these hurricanes and they say, oh, it's a category whatever. Okay, that's just the wind component. If you look at what's happened with hurricanes, as our building codes have gotten better and better and better, it's a water event. It's still a wind event for some people, but in many cases it's a water event. You're not going to survive 6 feet of storm surge. You're just not going to survive it. It's not going to happen. There's no way you're going to survive that. So whether it's 6 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet, you're not going to survive it. So when you see that there's going to be a big storm surge, do not take a chance. So 7 days of water, 7 days of food, have your medicine, have your documents. Go to wherever you want to go buy these things, but make sure you have batteries, you have radio, you have flashlights, you have a first aid kit. And remember this, when the electricity goes out, it might not be coming back on. So don't assume your cell phone is going to keep working. So if you need this, have a generator, but learn how the generator works. If you go back to some of the hurricanes when I was governor, what happened is we worked our butts off to keep everybody alive, but then they didn't know how to work a generator, or they didn't know how to work a chainsaw. So you got to be careful. Everybody, all of us up here, want everybody to survive these hurricanes, and we all would say the same thing. You can go rebuild a house, you can go buy the new car or a used car, but you can get that, but you can't rebuild a life. You don't want to lose your parents, you don't want to lose your siblings, you don't want to lose your kids, and it's up to you to keep people safe. Now, this is a team sport. Everybody up here is part of it. The sheriffs, the mayors, the city council, the county commissioners, emergency management people, but then on top of it, there's not-for-profits. So the Red Cross is a big part of this, and there's others. They're a big part of it because they'll help us open up shelters. They'll get people food. They'll get people medicine. They'll transport people, and they need two things: they need dollars and they need volunteers. And after these hurricanes, they have people show up from all over the country to come up and help. So my wife and I have been blessed. So we have the ability to give the compensation I get from the federal government in my Senate job away. So every quarter we give our money away. This quarter we're giving it to the Red Cross, and we're giving it to Meals on Wheels. These are two great organizations that go out there and try to make sure people are taken care of before and after a storm. So with that, I think I covered all the things that are. Then make sure you follow the news. And follow whatever your electeds are saying locally. They have the best information. They're talking to the National Hurricane Center, talking to the National Weather Service. But the one thing I tell everybody: follow storm surge, follow storm surge, follow storm surge. Don't just look at these categories anymore. In Michael, that hit my last couple of months in office, we lost people not because of the wind. We lost people 100% because of the storm surge. It picked up homes and moved them, and we saw what happened down here. So with that, let me turn it over to the sheriff. I want to thank Sheriff Marceno for what he does. He is absolutely committed to making sure this is the safest place to live. I was talking to a home builder today, and what they said is people want to be in Lee County. They want to be in Collier County because we have sheriffs, we have police departments that are saying we're going to make this a safe place to live. We know we have low taxes, we know we have beautiful beaches, but everybody wants to be in a safe place. So let me turn it over to Sheriff Marceno.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thanks for being here today. The 2023 hurricane season is rapidly approaching, and we need to be ready. My top priority is keeping you and your family safe before, during, and after a weather event. We know all too well what a powerful storm is capable of. In the days leading up to the storm, you need to prepare. Ensure you have the necessary supplies for you and your family to last several days or more. Take the lessons learned from 8 months ago and think of what you'll need. Think about what you will do differently and make these part of your plan. Use those lessons to stock up on food, water, and fuel early. The Lee County Sheriff's Office learned lessons as well. My family members and I will be out and be ready to deploy all of our assets. We need your help to be prepared so we can immediately go into the right residents who can critically need our assistance. We will always continue to work with our local, state, and federal partners to make absolute certain our residents have everything that they need. We are here for you. Remember, there are 3 phases to a storm. Before the storm, stay informed and be ready with your plan. Things can change quickly. Ensure you have the supplies and prepare for your properties. Store small items indoors so they don't become hazards. 2, during the storm, shelter in place. Do not go outside and risk your life. And then finally, after the storm, assess your needs. Assist others if you're able to, and help your neighbors Most importantly, be patient. Avoid potential hazards like bridges, downed power lines, and standing in water. We are a strong community here in Southwest Florida. We come together in times of need and we help others. Let's prepare now. I appreciate the team that's here. Appreciate Senator Scott and I. We've went through hurricanes together, worked around the clock. Everybody here, there's no I in team, but when this team comes together, you know, Southwest Florida strong, we do great things. To watch strangers help strangers is a great thing. So together we'll keep going forward and be prepared. If you don't plan, you fail. And we have no room for that. So we'll make sure the great residents of Southwest Florida, as always, are going to be safe. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, one thing to think about is wherever you are, think about if you're going to have to evacuate, how far in advance you have to evacuate. Because think about how our highway system works and if it's going to get backed up. I know everybody here will do everything they can, but one person that's not going to speak today, I just want to say something really nice about him. Fort Myers Mayor Anderson. I had the opportunity to work together with him when I was the governor, and he does a great job. He works hard to make sure it's a city that everybody wants to go to. It's a great city to visit, and I just want to thank him for being here. But now let me turn it over to Commissioner Brian Hammond. You have great commissioners here in Lee County. They're really committed to making sure this is the place everybody wants to live, and it seems like everybody's moving here. So Brian Hammond.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator. You know, it is a privilege to be here today with you all. So speaking as the chairman of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners, it's my privilege to represent the board and to represent the county. And I want to assure you today that the county's emergency management department is prepared and ready for this hurricane season. One of the most common questions I get asked by residents is, will you be ready in case we get another storm this year? And the answer is absolutely. You know, our team is praying for the best. We do not want to see another hurricane this year. I guarantee you that. But we will be prepared if one does come to make sure that we protect you and give you the information that you need to make the appropriate decisions to protect your life and your family. One of the things that you might want to start thinking about now is the experience that you had during Hurricane Ian. I think we all recognize that when a storm is coming, when we get into that cone of uncertainty, the supplies disappear off the shelves quickly. Now's the time when you can start thinking about buying a few extra supplies every time you make that trip to the grocery store and start to stockpile those so that when a storm does start to come our way, you've got those already in hand. You know, as the senator referenced, you know, our building codes are very good down here. You're going to likely survive a wind event, but the flooding, you cannot survive the flooding. And so before Hurricane Ian, we were on TV that morning telling people that you don't even need to evacuate the state. You don't even need to drive to the East Coast. All you really need to do is get 20 minutes outside of the flood zone, get inland, get to a friend or a family member's house, get to a safe place, a shelter inland where you're outside of the flood zone. Now's a good time to start thinking about where you would go. All right, don't wait until we're in a cone or don't wait until things are really urgent to start to think about that. Make the plan now about where you could go. Are there friends that you have that live outside of the evacuation zones that maybe they'd be willing to host you during a hurricane if that happens? Make those plans now. I think it's something that you and your family will be very glad that you did. The last thing I want to do is thank our first responders. There were some incredible stories in the wake of Hurricane Ian of first responders who knew their own homes were destroyed, who stayed out and saved lives and helped people in the wake of the storm. We are forever grateful to them for their courage, the bravery, and the sacrifice that they made in the wake of Ian to go out and save people and help them in the wake of the storm, knowing that their own homes had been destroyed and damaged. I'm sure at that time they wanted to be with their families, but they were out there taking care of us and our residents, and for that, we're super grateful. I want to thank the sheriff. I want to thank the senator. I want to thank everybody for the way they've supported Lee County since Hurricane Ian, and we know they've got our back as we go into this hurricane season. Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, you know, if you think about what these first responders did, their families, they knew their homes were at risk, but, you know, the families of these first responders put up with a lot because, you know, they know that their job of the first responder is to take care of people at a time of crisis, and so the families often have to take care of themselves. The next person is Commissioner Kevin Ruin, who I knew as mayor. I think you were mayor the whole time I was governor, I think. Yes, sir. And here's somebody who did a great job as mayor, and he really cares about law enforcement and is doing a great job as commissioner. Kevin Ruin.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Kevin Ruane. I'm a Lee County Commissioner. I'm also the Chairman of Long-Term Recovery from Hurricane Ian. I can't stress tonight enough to be prepared. I know we're still recovering, and it's going to take a long time for us to recover, but if you could prepare a little earlier and obviously just recall what took place on September 27th, what took place during that event, and just really be extraordinary and be prepared for this storm. I can't ask and plead enough for people to be ready for this storm and be ready for the season. We need to go back, and we will recover. I'm confident working with all the people up here. I can't thank enough of, really it started as the federal government and all the resources we had as I worked at the EOC with my colleagues. Just everyone came together as one. We want to continue to do that. But let's be safe, and let's be very, very prepared as we go and enter into this hurricane season. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Now we're going to hear from Fort Myers Beach Mayor Eilers. Here's my experience. We had my experience is we had 4 hurricanes when I was governor. If you look at what happens in these areas, they really, I think it's because of wonderful people live in our state, but it's horrible, the devastation. But you go look 5 years later, these are beautiful places to live. And I know Fort Myers Beach is going to do the same thing.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight, Senator. Obviously, as one of the hardest hit areas from the storm, along with our sister island, Sanibel, to the north, you learn a lot, and you talk about being prepared. And someone that saw it firsthand right after the storm, trying to figure out what prepared mean was very difficult. But you think about things about having your supplies and having everything ready, but you don't think about smaller things. And to me, one of the biggest things that I learned was obviously communication is key, not between those of us in our town, but other towns, the county, the state, and federal partners that we had, to be prepared about what happens after the storm. After the storm is as important, if you're lucky enough, as the senator said, to survive the storm. What happens after is just as important. You have no power, you have no water, you can't flush your toilets, the gas is shut down. You literally are living with nothing, and you forget about the small things. That's where that communication and collaboration comes in. We reached out, one of the things you forget about as we started the recovery and we started the rebuild is you forget about something so simple as getting your mail. As people started, they lost all their cars. They had no place to go. Our residents were having to go over an hour off island to find the mail, hoping that they're getting the checks from the federal, state, and their insurance companies to start the rebuild process. But that travel was very difficult. As I said, everybody lost their vehicles. So the town reached out to Aaron, who did a fantastic job from Senator Scott's office, who reached out to his DC team and said, Fort Myers Beach needs help. Can the senator help us out? Not only did he help, he made a call to the Postmaster General directly and said, what can you do for the town of Fort Myers Beach? They need to get their mail back on the island so that they could start the recovery process. He didn't make that call not once, he made that call 3 times. Text with me several times, we talked with myself and other council members I know talked to him. And I'm happy to say we're now getting mail on the island, not even 8 miles after the storm, where people are getting their checks to them. They're getting their insurance checks. They're starting the rebuild process. And hopefully what we learned, unfortunately what we had to go through, we could pass that information along, that reach out to your partners because they're there to help you. They're there for that shoulder that you need. So be prepared, heed the warnings, watch the videos, stay in communication, and collaborate with your partners, and we'll all get through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. So I have 9 offices in the state. And Aaron runs the office in this part of the state. But we won for the best, not me, the team did, the best constituent service team in the country. And so their job is to basically do everything, all these things to try to help people. And mail's a big deal. So now we're going to hear from Sanibel Mayor Johnson. Nice, easy place to fix up. So, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, and thanks everybody for being here tonight. I want to reiterate what's been said already. I won't go back through that, but it's all about preparedness. It's all about being prepared to make sure that you can weather the storm, so you're there for the recovery process. And speaking of recovery, Senator, I want to say a big thank you to you for $10.2 million for beach renourishment to reestablish our berms out on the barrier island so that we can help protect ourselves from the next storm that's coming. Hopefully it won't be this year, and hopefully it'll be a long time in coming. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the Senator for his co-sponsoring the disaster tax relief bill, because not everybody has insurance cover. Not everything is covered by FEMA. Many of us are having to go into our pockets to fund that recovery process. And with this tax relief after disasters, it's a huge shot in the arm. So be prepared, recover quickly. I'd also like to say Mail, while it's a very small thing, Aaron, it's a very big thing. It's a sense of normalcy. You should be able to get your mail, not necessarily at your mailbox out in front of your house, but certainly you should be able to get it at your door. And I know former Mayor Holly Smith worked very closely with the Senator's office to make sure that that got done for us. Holly, you want to say a couple words about that?
Senator?
Absolutely.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor to mayor.
And by the way, Holly was relentless. She did not let up.
And well, you know,
It
that's
works,
our job.
right?
That's our job. So I just want to say, you know, mail is not a privilege, it's a right.
Right.
And
It's in the
let's
Constitution.
thank you. And we also remember the city of Sanibel, we were separated from the world with our bridge. That was a whole nother complication. So we got our bridge between the federal, local, state partners, having that bridge come back to us. But then the next thing that we started to need, as Mayor Allers talked about, was how far we had to get, our constituents had to go to get their mail for businesses. And we did. We worked very hard on getting that mail back to the island. And I think it could have taken a lot longer. And that was another reconnection and a huge start for our process of rebuilding. And I think, you know, our mail came. We now have mail delivery at all of the homes. The trailers were just removed not too long ago. So our actual mail building is up and running. And I can't thank the senator enough for taking my endless phone calls, responding,
worked.
and being able to actually take that
Yeah.
up the ladder,
Yeah.
and actually with Aaron as well, thank you. And I just wanted to say, as everyone said, with preparation, we never anticipated what we would see. And what we saw was a lot more than you hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And we saw in Southwest Florida the worst happen. And we hope we never see that again. But preparation, as everyone has said here, you can never start too early to have that plan. And that's going to be your success. That's going to be our success as well. So thank you very much. And Senator, thank you very much for
job.
being here today.
Next, we're going to hear from Jill Palmer. Jill's runs this part of the Red Cross, and the Red Cross does a great job. And here's what they need. There's always seems to be a disaster somewhere. So your resources will be helpful to them, and your volunteers will be helpful to them. They need both of them. So Jill Palmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for having us here tonight, Sheriff for hosting, commissioners, mayors. The American Red Cross cannot do what we do without the support of the community, the support of our community partners, our government officials. That is how we are able to deliver our mission to alleviate human suffering in the face of disasters. Every day, the Red Cross responds to disasters across the country. Hurricane Ian was one of those big ones, but we are prepared, we responded, and we are continuing in the recovery phase. It's been said here today that it takes many to respond, and we are grateful for those relationships and partnerships, but it takes the community to understand your part and your role and how you can make a kit, make a plan, and stay informed. The Red Cross relies on the generosity of our donors, our volunteers that are our major workforce. Over 90% of those that work for the Red Cross are volunteers, and we are grateful for the generosity of the Senator and his continued support for the Red Cross mission. For more information, if you'd like to get involved, become a Red Cross volunteer. We're always looking for additional workforce. You can visit redcross.org. Thank you.
So the big thing is get ready. Hopefully it won't happen again. It's better to be ready. We can take any questions if you want to talk about the hurricane. If you want to talk about something besides that, I'll be glad to do that separately. So if there's political questions, I'll do that separately. But if there's any question anybody has about the hurricane for any of us or preparedness, just let me know.
I did have a question. I know you've helped communities in the aftermath of storms. I was kind of looking for, the lessons you've learned and that you could pass on to Southwest Florida. So a lot of people still have tarps on roofs and things like that, so they're trying to get prepared for the hurricane season, but they still have damage to their homes. They're maybe fighting with the insurance company that is still trying to get materials. What advice do you have for families who are trying to get prepared but still have damage?
I know. So Sonora, call us if you have any issues with FEMA, SBA, any of the federal agencies. That's what we do. All right. If you have a problem with your insurance company, you should call the CFO, Jimmy Petronas. That I mean, he's working on that, so I think you should do that. I know that there's lots of issues right now with regard to the cost of property insurance and flood insurance. What we're trying to do at the federal level, and I've been doing this since I was governor, is trying to get the federal government to actually run a national flood insurance program that's fair to Florida. We're a donor state; our rates should never go up. So I've been working on that since I was governor to try to build the private flood insurance business, but the federal government's been a pain in the rear to get that done. So if there's any issues like that, that's where I would direct my effort. But if you call our office, we'll direct you to the right person. So, anybody else?
Look at how far we've come from day one to where we are today. It's honestly incredible. The bridge, the lighthouse, getting things cleaned up, removed, even construction starting in some of our barrier islands.
Yeah.
It's honestly awe-inspiring to see.
What you said is right. It's awe-inspiring.
In your words, how do you see from the images from day one, broken causeway, entire region just in shambles, to today? You drive through it, it looks normal in most parts. How do you put that towards?
The thing that I think all of us have to really take is that think of how many people showed up. Local people showed up and did the right thing. All of our first responders did. But I can just tell you, in that hurricane and in all the prior hurricanes I had, people came from all over the country. The Red Cross came, but there are other groups that came. People just came on their own. They just drove down here and set up shop to just serve meals, pass out water and stuff like that. I think the awe-inspiring thing is what all these people did. It is neat to see all the new construction and all these things that are coming back. But the thing that makes you feel good at your heart is all the things that people did for people that they'll never probably see again. And that's what's nice. I'll tell you, being the governor and being the senator, what you see a lot is just the generosity of people and people doing things for other people. So it's really, really nice. I mean, think about it with that, and then with the Parkland shooting happening, with Pulse happening, and just these wonderful people that show up. But it is neat to see all the new construction. So I think anybody that's in the middle of it, we are in our house. The nice thing would be, I joke with my wife all the time when I am up in D.C. I said, so did we finish today? Do we have a backyard yet? So she laughs. I'm sure a lot of people are saying that to their families.
Here in Southwest Florida, I know I'm always out on the islands as well. We're focused on it. Across the country, maybe not so much. Hurricane Ian might be an afterthought. Last week, the national spotlight was brought back on this area. What efforts do you want to make sure that the rest of the country doesn't forget about our little corner of the world?
It's hard. I mean, I'll tell you, I bet. Joe, why don't you come up for just a second and talk about what happens? Here's actually, it's really hard because the news cycle is over. So, Ray Carson talked about this. What happens to them is that people are very generous, right, as it happens. But how long were you doing stuff after Ian? Just talk about it. And that's what we got to keep telling people. There's people still hurting. Even today, there's people hurting as a result of that hurricane. And so, just talk about what happens with you guys.
Absolutely. So, when there's a disaster, we can scale up depending on the size and the scope of the disaster, whether it's a daily house fire that we respond to, a multifamily fire, a tornado, another weather event, or something as large as Hurricane Ian. We're able to scale our resources to be able to bring in volunteers and team members from across the country. But we were sheltering for, almost 180 days that we were taking care of individuals in the community who had been displaced, working with other partners, doing feeding, mass care, distribution of emergency supplies, really trying to help the community move forward with their recovery. And that's also not to highlight all of the work that was done in the shelter with all of the community partners to help those individuals be able to move out of the shelter. Because really the shelter is not where you want to be long term. So there's a lot of work that has to be done behind the scenes to find that next place to go. And today, we continue our long-term recovery. We are working with other partners here to distribute grant money from the donors that were able to contribute to the American Red Cross, and that work will continue for the next couple of years here.
And the sheriff, I want to say something because the sheriff did the same thing. The sheriff created a fund that was actually able to help. So you might talk about what you guys did and what you're still doing.
Well, I think, thank you, Senator, and thank you, Joe, and everybody here. As we look, they say a pitch is worth 1,000 words. I'll say a picture leaves you at a loss of words. When I stepped out of the helicopter immediately after Ian, I looked around and I couldn't believe what I looked at. I will tell you today, sitting here with everybody here in this team, the great residents of Lee County, the great residents of Florida, Southwest Florida, we came together. The sheriffs all worked together, strangers helping strangers. The senator pointed out, nothing more heartwarming than strangers helping strangers. When you drive around, very quickly, if you don't go to the beach ends, you wouldn't even know sometimes that a storm went through here at that magnitude. So it's very, very heartfelt. And also the senator and other people putting together funds for people that are in need. First responders that literally the senator touched on, where they lost their homes. I have workers in my department, my family members, that have, wives or husbands and children that lost everything. They lost their clothing, their vehicles, their house, but yet they both come to work, put a uniform on, not even knowing where they're going to go stay, and they try to still serve other people. Very heartwarming, and there's many, many stories like that. But why I think Southwest Florida in particular really, really works is that we all come together. We communicate really well. There are no agendas except just to do the right thing. And we push everything aside and we focus on what's right. We put our minds together and we push forward. And the great residents are a part of that team. So I'm proud to stand here with amazing people. I think back to the storm where the senator was then governor. And literally, I don't think he slept 2 hours. We were on the phone pretty much every single hour of the day. He had an office in one of our shelters. He was constantly here helping us. And that's what it takes. It takes more than words. It takes action. And this county in Southwest Florida did just that. And Senator, it means a lot that you and your team are taking the time all over. Because again, I said it before, if you don't have a plan, you fail. At 45 miles an hour, sustained winds, we tell people, Mother Nature doesn't tell us exactly where she's going to go. I was on the phone with my colleague, Chad Chronister, the sheriff of Hillsborough County, amazing guy. And I first told him, Sheriff, everything we have is coming your way. It looks like after 100 years, the storm's going to hit Tampa, right? Well, hours later, he said, Sheriff, it's coming to you, and I'm going to send you everybody. And thankfully, he did. Okay, and when you're the sheriff who's in charge of law and order and safety and security, it's overwhelming when you step out of a helicopter and you look and there's buildings that were stories and stories high and they're washed away and just a little bit of rebar and sand and you can't identify properties. But the team came together, and again, Senator, I can't thank you enough, having been through these storms with all of you. The county commissioners, this team, they never slept. Every single day we were together. The mayors who came out. We talk about just mail. You think about it. It's not a privilege to get your mail, okay? But getting that mail is so important. Having a bridge to get to an island, it's critically important. This team came together. I'm proud to play a part of it. And the great residents of Southwest Florida will be safe and secure and will build stronger than ever. And the senator said it best. You can replace vehicles. You can replace homes. You can't replace life, and everyone's life counts. So thanks for having us here.
Sheriff, can you talk a little bit about, in terms of emergency response, any lessons learned, any improvements or changes to procedures?
So lessons learned. We always learn. Always. Every time we have an incident or an event, we debrief. We come together as a team. We look as a county. What can we do? What did we do? How did we respond? How can we do it better? I will tell you that the big information is getting that information out consistently at the same time and transparently. And a lot of residents are very appreciative when they lose communication. Okay, they need to know what's going on in their county. And when you deliver that information every single day at the same time transparently, this is where we are, this is what we want to do, and this is where we're going, that was very beneficial. What we also learned is that other counties, God forbid, they have to experience something like this. How can we better assist them? If you're going to another county or somewhere else to help someone, but you're asking for their help so you can help them, it defeats the purpose. So we've done things like different types of equipment where we're self-contained, where we can deploy now anywhere in the state and help our fellow brothers and sisters all over the state. We've learned a lot. We've come together. And we always hope, and we say we hope we never have to deal with that again, but we do know We are a state that is prone to hurricanes, and we have to be ready for the worst case and pray that we don't have that. So we learned a lot. We sit in a real-time intelligence center here that we used every single step of the way. We had drones, all the latest and greatest equipment, all taken from drug money that's made good now. So again, I think moving forward, we always learn. The most important part is no matter who you are standing here, no matter what your title is, we're all part of a team and a family, and we communicate and we talk amongst each other and we move forward collectively together for the right positive reasons. So I think this county does a great job. The senator had complimented us early on, and we're blessed to have such a great team.
You know what I learned is don't run out of gas. Don't run out of gas, then don't run out of gas, then don't run out of gas. Get the electricity on as fast as you can. All right, so we work together, all of your utilities work together. And then with Michael, what we learned is, because one of the cell companies was down for quite a bit, you got to get that back up as fast as you can. And then you've got to tell people that you want the tourists back. I mean, every one of our counties in Florida, almost every county is very dependent on tourism. This county is very dependent on tourism. There's a lot of jobs tied to tourism, and especially our barrier islands are tied to tourism. I don't know, Brian, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I have a privilege of serving with the mayors and city council folks on the Tourist Development Council, and I have an honor to serve as the chair of that council this year. I appreciate the question about the national spotlight being back on our area, because I think one thing that we want the nation to know is that, even though we still have some damage to clean up and fix, we're actually ready for tourists. I think the mayors of both the barrier islands will tell you that they're ready to see tourists back on the beach again, and that the business owners who are struggling and fighting every single day to open those businesses back up are actually counting on the tourists to come back. We know in Lee County that 1 out of every 5 jobs counts on tourism. We know in Lee County that when the tourists visit, they actually inject $5 billion into our local economy every single year. So I think what's important to know is that while they have seen the images of devastation that Hurricane Ian brought, that we have done a tremendous amount of rebuilding since, and our beaches are ready to see tourists again. And our business owners, like I said, who are fighting really hard to get back open to serve those tourists, would like to see them come back down.
Anybody else? Thanks, everybody. Oh, yes, sir.
A number of people have mentioned communications. I know you said it after Hurricane Michael. I mean, cell service was down, and I know that was a big issue for some people. I mean, it was hard to call and tell somebody you're okay.
Yeah.
Like that. Are there any plans or lessons that you learned from that storm, or plans in place to maybe help strengthen communications in the aftermath of the storm?
So, what I learned in my time as governor is you've got to prepare ahead of time for all this, and you should expect so everybody to work together. I mean, we didn't run out of gas in the hurricanes we had because we got everybody to work together, and then we worked to try to get all the communication companies to work together. Share towers, all those things. So I think that's something we have to continue to work on because. For whatever reason, it seems like one of them's down in these hurricanes. So, but I think getting people to talk to each other is making it better. And then I think the other thing is there's after Michael, there's clearly now an expectation that they put more resources where the problem is, and I think that's happening. But there's still, that I can just tell you, that's where we still have to put a lot of work into it. All right, thanks everybody. Okay, good job.
Comments about that.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you, Senator.
Be sure you tell me what I can do to help.
Absolutely.
Has it reached out to data?